Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for coming into GSD today. I just want to introduce to you one of my favorite people. And I know I keep saying my favorite people, and I really am bringing you my favorite people from across the whole country. This is Dan Holt out of the Springfield, Missouri area. And Dan, I would love to start with a little bit about your history. And then I'm going to walk you through some questions because I can't wait for you to tell them how many deals you're going to do this year in 2020.
You mean just blurt out the number?
Just blurt it out. Blurt it out.
First of all, you did say your favorite people to me when you're talking to me, and you just discounted it when you said that you called everybody else your favorite people too. And
No. Only the people that I interview are my favorite people.
Fair
and
enough.
You're only number 4 or 5.
Oh, outstanding. Perfect.
Yeah, right?
540 deals this year.
540 in Springfield, Missouri. What's the population of Springfield, Missouri?
300,000 daytime population, but only 150,000 residents.
Okay, so those of you who are in big cities, I just want you to think about that. I hope that resonates clearly, that it's 300,000 people. 540
Daytime.
What does that mean, daytime?
They commute into work.
Okay, so from Branson, from other areas that are close by.
We're very urban sprawl, if you will. So we've got a 45-minute radius around Springfield that all commutes into Springfield. When I say 45 minutes, I have to qualify that. That's also 45 miles, because I know some people say 45 minutes could be 5 miles in some towns. You can be anywhere in Springfield in 15 minutes. So yeah, it's a big rural area.
So do you sell in all of those areas around?
We sell anywhere our license will take us or our leads will take us.
Okay. So how long have you been in the business?
12 years.
Only 12 years.
Yep. And I'll qualify that with the first 2 years I didn't do anything. I got my license only to bail myself out of selling houses that I had built, because I thought realtors were lazy and didn't do anything, and it was super easy. And I was selling most of them anyhow, and they were making the money. So I thought, well, I'll just get licensed I did it honestly to save my business and save my family.
So you were a builder before?
That's right.
Okay. How long did you build?
Probably 6 years before the market crashed.
Okay.
So 2000, 2001, something like that.
Okay. So then you got in at a fantastic time in the market.
Yep. And I got it was $6 million in debt when the crash happened.
Holy smokes.
Mm-hmm. I was losing $25,000 a month at 32 years old. Oh, and I didn't have a job, and my wife had quit her job and had 3 little kids at home.
So what did you do at that point? Like, what was your first step?
On it, worked twice as hard. I turned every rock over I could to find any book of business I could, and I just kept doing what I was doing.
So how important was prospecting during that time?
It's funny, you and I haven't talked about this. So I put in at 32 years old a 40-acre subdivision that had 120 lots in it. And I just actually closing in on the last lot of 120 this year. But I remember pulling into the subdivision and going to the corner of the subdivision because I had 43 lots hit the market. This was in 2000, end of 2007. And I sat and I dialed every lumber salesman, every builder I knew. And in 2 days, I sold every one of those lots.
Because you picked up the phone and called somebody.
I didn't even know what prospecting was, but I'm like, there are people that need to buy these and no one else is calling them. So I called them and got them all to come up there and got them to believe in the vision of what we were doing and got out of debt, basically. Because that was probably 3 million of that $6 million in debt. And grass eats 3 meals a day. It doesn't make money for you if it's just sitting there in grass.
What a great quote. So when did you start building your team? Tell us the evolution of your team.
Okay, so I got into real estate, like I said, the first 2 years only to sell my own real estate. I swore off helping anybody. I just said no. I didn't know what referring somebody meant. So I just said no, I wouldn't help them. I would buy, trade, sell. Got into, then 2010, I got into real estate. I got into actually trying, right? I went to my first national training event. I sold 3 million that year, 3 million the following year. And then, so let's see, we're up to 2012 by this point, right? And I hired my first assistant in 2012, I hired my first assistant. And I went from 3 million to 10 million. And I only remember that because specifically the math was I grossed 318,000 in commission, and that part-time assistant cost me $18,000. So I netted $300,000. That was in
So
what,
this is
2012?
so time out, because I think this is really important. How many people do you know, Dan, that get stuck and say, I can't afford that salary, or I can't afford to pay
It's an
a base?
expense. Uh-huh.
It's an expense. And almost every time we see somebody that has talent, who has drive like you, that hires that admin, you more than double the next year.
Yeah, I mean,
If you have the right admin.
three times. Yeah.
Yeah, you went up 3 times.
Yeah.
Well, you're super talented though.
Oh, no, I don't know that. I just know when to fire myself.
Okay, so you fired yourself from the admin job.
Huh?
And then what happened?
Somebody started beating on my door to be a buyer's agent. I didn't know what it was, and I didn't want it, and I didn't want any part of it. I couldn't see past. I couldn't see the vision of it, and so finally, I just said, I was like, "Fine." Because I was annoying at that point in time, right? Fine, if you want to be my buyer's agent, you can be. I'm not giving you anything, but here's the platform and the portal, so you can go convert. If you can convert the leads, you can have them. Knowing that, if I at least at that point in time made 50% of those leads, of the revenue from those leads, was better than the zero I was making already because I was maxed out, right?
Right.
And she did great. She did fantastic. And then life changed, and Jen stepped into my world. And that was exactly 8 years ago. I think it was November 21st.
So tell us Jen's history, because I think this is really important.
So Jen and I got in the business at about the same time. Didn't know her because really she kind of got the business for the same reason. She was helping their family buy investment properties. And so she got into the business 2008, ironically, also. And she was basically a buyer's agent from the onset. And she, the year that I recruited her, it took me 6 months, by the way. The year that I recruited her, but the year before I recruited her, I'm sorry, she sold and closed 16 homes. The year I recruited her, she closed 49 or 50, I don't remember.
Okay.
She would correct me and say 50, but but that was the vision, is that you're going to sell 50 homes. And I'm sorry, I stay correct. She does sell 49 because that was the joke of, I would just bought one more house.
So what is she most famous for?
Outside of her curly hair, she is most famous for running the entire showing agent model. I think it had been teased in front of us of this is a showing agent model. And I had brought it back to her. And I'm like, hey, what do you think about this? Like, this is intriguing, because at that point in time, she was selling 110 homes by herself.
Yeah.
With just office help. And it was,
so you and Jen both selling with admins.
That's right. That's right. That's all it was. Yeah. And so we were built out according to the MREA at that point in time. It was her, myself on the listing side, her on the buy side. We would dabble across. We really weren't even specialized at that point in time. And then we put, we had admins in place, and we were doing all we could. We were servicing every lead we could, and we were dropping leads, and we were pulling hair. And I said, Jen, let me back up and tell you, because this is important, that along the way of her growing, I saw how talented and specialized she was when she was in front of people and opening doors, right? People gravitated towards her. And I said, I've got to get everything else off her plate. That's the only thing she needs to be doing, to the point that we hired around her so much that she literally would just come in the office at 8:30 in the morning, grab a stack of folders with showing instructions on them, and she would leave, and we wouldn't see her back till 5 o'clock when she dropped it off, unless she was showing back up to write an offer. This is also pre-dot loop and electronic signature time. So, right. I mean, she would call and say, hey, I got a hot one. I'm on the way back. I'll be at the office at 1 o'clock. Have this offer prepared. And it would be prepared. She'd write it, present it, go back out showing more homes.
So she really mastered that showing assistant model.
Yeah. So from there, that's right. So from there, she built that out. We had kind of heard it in tease, and I talked to her about it. We failed our way forward to the point that she is then in, I'm going to mess up the year, but I'm going to say probably 3 years ago. So probably about 2017, 2017 and 2018. So 2 years consistently, she closed over 225 transactions a year with herself, 2 showing agents, and an admin.
So you guys were doing what, 3 in the 300s at that point?
No, we were doing, this is the first year we've crossed 500. And I'm just going to average the previous 3 years to about 450 per year for 3 years. So it was, our natural ceiling was 450 and couldn't get past it. So I fired myself.
So I guarantee you right now, people are wondering how many people are on your team, because I know that if we were live, they'd be saying, how many buyers agents, how many sellers agents, what does your team structure look like? How many people currently sell on your team?
So this is the unique thing about our team. And I think most people would look at our model, look at our numbers and be like, oh, they've got 10 people, 12 people in production and they're all doing 40 deals each, right? Mm-hmm. Which I'd say ironically really close math. We have 6 people in production and our team averages every year consistently 90 closed transactions per production agent.
So in order to be on your team, what I'm hearing is you have to be massively talented. Sorry, I'm not using proper grammar there. And you have to have a drive, you have to be organized, and you have to be willing to go out and do whatever it takes.
You have to have drive. I don't care if you're organized.
Okay.
I'll organize around you.
Yeah. Right. You have to have a lot of drive. So if I come on your team and I do 24 deals a year, am I going to stay on your team?
No.
Yeah.
You're also not going to want to.
Why is that?
Because donkeys don't like to run with thoroughbreds.
I love that.
You and thoroughbreds don't like to run with donkeys. Naturally, you will phase yourself out because the level of production on our team, you will feel insufficient, insecure, and you'll just naturally phase yourself out. I've seen it happen 5 times. And people will show, and that doesn't mean they're not good people. It doesn't mean they're not talented people. People have come on our team before and done that level of production for a couple of years, and they drop 50% and they just phase it right on out. I don't have to have the conversation. They're like, and maybe it's because they don't want it anymore. And we try to we really focus on work-life balance. So I'm not just telling you that we're bringing people in and grinding them through 300 transactions and then burning them out and kicking them out the industry. Some people just don't like to compete at that high level for that long of a time, and that's okay.
So the support staff has to be incredible.
Yep.
Let's talk about that.
Okay.
How many support people do you have?
Well, let's see, 18 minus 6. So I'm going to guess 12. And 3 of those are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 are ISA, OSA. So they are outbound lead generating, inbound lead generating, and kind of jumping back and forth between the two.
So time out, because many people on this call right now may say, what's outbound, what's inbound? What lead sources are you outbounding, and what does that look like?
For sale by owners, expired, circle prospecting. So if we put a house under contract in less than a day, we're trying to call the entire rest of the subdivision, assuming we have multiple offers, and trying to generate more listings.
Okay. And then what leads come inbound? What does that look like?
Anything, right? So anything that's a direct result of the listings that we have, people inquiring online, people find us through our social media posts or etc. We have pay-per-click campaigns. We have campaigns through, I hate to say it's a dirty word, but we have some zip codes that we own through Zillow, and it's, we have a lot of nets, right? So like when you fish, right, you throw, not like old school fishing, not like a rod and reel. You throw a big net out and you have to cast this huge net. And so we just have our net as big as we can, maintaining that we're not going to spend a lot of money for it. It's all the organic sources that we try to find.
How important is your sphere?
Well, our sphere used to not be important at all, but it's super important now, right? So that's actually one of our biggest challenges right now is doing 500 units a year and still having a really tight sphere, and those sphere really feeling important.
Mm-hmm. So the rest of your staff, you also have contract to close. How many of those?
I have 3 TCs. Okay. Well, I really have 2 TCs. I have a director of operations.
Okay.
Jen is the CEO. And we talked about this briefly before. I fired myself. I brought her on. Well, let me bring on. I didn't do it in that order. I brought her on as a 50-50 partner. She bought in actually. With the understanding I was going to fire myself from running the team. She's the CEO. We do have a production manager. We have a lead gen director, and we have a director of operations.
Okay. And all these agents, they primarily just sell.
That's all they do.
That's all they do is sell, because they have somebody lead generating for them. They have somebody managing their sphere. They have somebody managing their contracts. I mean, so you've hired salespeople, then you've hired their complete support.
Yeah, and if they're behind on transactions, there's an expectation that they know the sources to lead generate through and from, but the lead gen director is in charge of the lead gen. So they're getting that from her. They have their own segments of the database they're responsible for following up with, et cetera. But as a whole, their one thing is to sell houses. Actually, I came back to our whole team about a month ago and it kind of hit me in the head. And it was, we had to have a big mass lead generation day because we were behind, right? And I talked to Jen. I'm like, here's the thing. All of the 18 people on our team, their one thing, it was a little deceptive and I had to see it differently. Their one thing is selling houses. And they're like, nuh-uh, that's the 6 people over there. I'm like, no. All of our job is selling houses. We have different roles within that, but the number one job is selling houses.
Mm-hmm. Well, and obviously that's working, right? So how do you keep your team connected? What would cause me, if I were on your team, Dan, that I would never choose to leave your team?
Well,
these are my trick questions that I don't give you.
Yeah, no, I like that. And I think it really comes down from me understanding and knowing you. And knowing what's important to you, knowing your goals, knowing your et cetera, right? Because if I don't know what your trigger buttons are, if I don't know what's important to you, then I don't know how to feed you. Also, it comes very on the front side from knowing what drives you. Okay. So if details drive you, and if you're like, I like the idea at the end of the day of all my pens being lined up on my desk and in order, I'm not throwing you in production, right? Right. And if you're like a hot mess express and you come in and your hair's kind of all like messed up but you're really bubbly and you're cute and you're et cetera. But you got your buttons kind of out of order and and I'm not putting you to run a transaction. That's going to be really high level of job stress for you. And so it's also identifying before I ever bring them into my world are they a really good fit as a personality style for this role that I'm putting them in? Because if you're really talented, you have a lot of drive and you have got a bucket of personality and no details, pretty high odds of success in the sales side, right?
Right.
So it's identifying that and taking the time. It's hiring slow.
So what is your environment like? What is your on your team? Like, what's your connectivity like in your team?
Well, we all like a really good happy hour, but we also like selling houses more, right? But we always like selling houses more. So we understand we are a culture of productivity. Okay. We're a culture of we all get more of what we want when we sell more houses.
Okay.
Right. So
they get more time off. They get more vacations. They get more of their quality time when they kill it at their job.
Or they get more cash, or they get more whatever. Right. Same thing. I know what's important to them. I know what feeds their buckets. And knowing that when there's a direct correlation to the level of production we do, I'm going to give you more. Right. It's like the rabbit hitting the pellet or hitting the thing. I don't know if it's a rabbit. It's some kind of animal hitting a pellet, hitting the trigger, and getting a pellet. And I'm like, I know. I just need to know what that trigger is. I'll give them the pellet.
Like grass and cocaine, by the way.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. Right. That being the example, I just need to know what that trigger is. And once I know that trigger, I'm going to hit it all the time. And they're okay with it. They're happy with it. They love it because they're getting more of what they want.
So when I asked you, what's the secret to your team? You gave me 2 answers: talent and leverage.
Uh-huh.
How do you attract talent?
By being talent.
Very simple. So people are coming to you going, hey, I would like to have an incredible life and go sell 90 houses. And I know if I plug into your system and your team, if I'm the right person, that's possible.
It's not only possible, it's expected.
Okay, that's a standard. Mm-hmm. How many people do you turn down that come to you that want to be on your team?
Lots. And well, like you said, we just know our standard and our expectation walking in. So if going back to what I said before, we're not going to knowingly bring somebody in our team that's average. And that's sometimes we're just not looking. So I want everybody to hear this and be like, well, I asked them, they didn't hire me, so I must be average. That's not what I'm saying. We're not always looking. Because we hire only to fit the gaps in our business, right? We don't just hire to keep adding on. We know what our goal is, and our goal is non-negotiable, and we'll make an org chart to hit that goal. So right. Just because I don't bring people in doesn't mean I don't like them, want them, and can't see an opportunity in my world for them. I just know I just know what the business model is for this year, and it either fits it or it doesn't.
Right.
So I got a little off track because your question was not
So
that.
I know. So what's interesting is most of the people that I've interviewed before so far and that I've talked to just over the years of being in business for 23 years, a lot of people have standard expectations that a team member does 24 deals a year, or they may have 36 deals a year.
Mhm.
Your standard is what?
Our minimum standard is 72.
72. Okay. That's the highest standard so far. And when I asked you how tight you are on your profit and loss, you said what? Doesn't matter because my profit is
43%.
43%.
Mhm.
Which, by the way, if you're an agent going, I have no idea what you're talking about right now, go do your profit and loss, because it's really hard to get that high of a profit. And part of that is that you and Jen still both sell.
Yeah, I'm more so than her now
Mm-hmm.
because she has the CEO role.
Right. So how many deals do you do a year personally?
100.
100 deals. How much time is that a week?
4 hours, 5 hours.
No.
For me.
Per day or a week?
No, a week.
How do you sell that many houses?
Just, I mean, I guess I'm not counting lead gen in time, but I'm gonna be honest with you, like I'm an awful lead generator. I leverage that and I got rid of it. I just, this is awful, but so like on the way to EDP, I'm just gonna be honest that deals just hit my plate and I do deals and I like doing deals and I spin them. So, you know, one lead turns into 2 transactions. So you only need 50 leads a year to do 100 deals.
Right.
And I know that's not really exciting. I know that you were probably looking for a really exciting answer there, and your like viewers are like, "Wow, this guy is the most boring." It just when you do 500 deals a year organically, you just have X amount of deals fall in your lap. Does that make sense?
And you've also been in for 12 years.
Yeah, and a lot of it is low hanging fruit.
A lot of it is. I mean, and it's interesting because I love when new agents come into business and they go, "Gosh, I just want to do what you've done in 5 years." You have to understand, I've been in for 23. I've only been reselling again for 5. However, I've been in for 23. You too can do what I've done in 23.
Well, that's right, and you also have to take into consideration that they want what you have without being willing to do what you did.
That's right.
Because we have some really dark years in our life that we could talk about that we didn't have a work-life balance and we didn't see our kids and we didn't, etc. And we put it's like serving time in prison, right? You're like, I'm out now, I'm on parole. I'm on parole right now. But I earned it, you know? And
How does parole feel?
Well, I mean, you know, it's fantastic. I have leverage, and like you said, I can sell 100 houses a year in 5 hours a week. Which, going back to what you said before, how do you attract talent? You attract talent by creating opportunity in your world for them.
Yeah.
Now, what that means is that I need to create leverage, but I need to create leverage because most people would say, "Well, to sell 100 homes a year, it's going to take me 40 hours a week." That's fantastic. If that's what it takes you, though, you don't have time in your life to create an opportunity for anybody else.
No.
So by creating leverage means I'm able to find other opportunities. By finding other opportunities, it means I can remove myself from a role and create an opportunity for somebody else.
How many other opportunities do you currently have? You're in another role. You're in another part-time role.
Yeah. I'm managing our market center. I'm an investor and I manage our market center.
Okay. And you now have the opportunity to look for other opportunities. For instance, you could go and do some flips. You could go and do some investing. I mean, you could go back to the building if you really wanted to, or developing, because all of a sudden you have your time back.
Yeah. So right now I'm looking at building a 20-unit apartment complex, which isn't huge, but they're more of like patio home type deals. I bring Jen, by the way. I should say I bring her in. She's earned the right to come in as a business partner because we're business partners on everything else. Mm-hmm. So while she's running the team and I have time free, I'll go find more opportunities. We made, I think we did the math. We made $300,000 in flips this year. She is my partner on that. She didn't have to do any of it, and yet she's my partner. Right? We're partners in all things.
How many flips did you do to make 300?
4.
4 flips?
Yeah, I had one really good one.
Holy smokes, Dan.
Yeah. I had one really good one.
That goes back to your building knowledge. That goes back to all the stuff that you've done in the past. It's not easy for somebody to go, I'm going to go do 4 flips and go make 300 grand.
It's the most interesting thing about every one of the flips, the sellers' agents came to me. I didn't hunt these. They came to me because they know I can close fast. I can do right. It's just all this. So when you talk about opportunities, you got to get everything else. If I'm too busy for everything, when I leverage something off, I don't replace it with non-dollar producing activities.
Okay.
I don't just go sit at the bar at 1 o'clock or golf. And I don't care if you do or if you golf, but my point is I'm hunting more opportunities. So because I owe that to the people that are running everything else. So as I create more, as they take more from me, that's the beautiful thing is, number one, you cannot accept opportunity. And an opportunity could mean a role, it could mean a position, it could mean a flip. You cannot take an opportunity if you don't have your replacement. And that replacement has to take it from you. You can't give it to somebody, because if you give it to somebody, take it from you. So when somebody takes your role, you have to understand, I'm going to give this up because I'm going to make way more money if I accept it. But our ego gets in the way of letting us do that. This is kind of a leadership deal that I'm working on right now. I'm going through. So as she takes it and crushes it, takes it to a higher level, would I be better to, number one, just jump in and sell 100 houses and not get involved in leadership and go do a leadership opportunity over here, rise these people up to run this business, and I'll go find this one over here and I'll flip a handful of houses in the meanwhile and build some apartments and manage some rentals, and which is wealth building, right? But I'm doing it with the people that have taken my responsibilities away from me.
And how many of those people are self-managed?
Every one of them.
Yeah. That's the other key here, right? Like you can't hire somebody and give them a job. They have to take it from you because you're so self-managed that you never have to micromanage. You never have to go check on them. You never have to say, hey, did you follow up on that lead that I gave you that was 300 grand that
That's right.
I've never heard back from, because they're self-managed and they go, hey, Dan, guess what? I just converted that lead you just gave me. I just want to make sure you knew.
Oh yeah, I just closed them. Thanks.
Yeah. Like,
You know, and that's exactly right. That's a perfect way of putting the fact that if you have to manage somebody, you have the wrong person.
Yeah.
Now there can be managers in your organization, but it's not you. If you're the empire builder, you're not the manager.
so your role is the empire builder.
I think so. Along with Jen. My job is the wealth determiner.
Okay.
Not and kind of I've heard it said a different way, in that you have 5 wealth determiners, but I believe it's also my responsibility to be those 5 people's wealth determiner.
Yeah.
It's not just a take, it's a win-win, not a win-lose or lose-win. Like I'm not just bastardizing 5 people for the sake of profiteering. My job is truly to change their lives. Mm-hmm. And if I'm focused on that, they know it. So this is the interesting part. So that when Jen and I have talked about this on many things, because as she's taken the business over, it gets messier when I get involved, right? And I love to be involved. So this is a really hard thing that she and I have worked through. Now, as that lays true, I am now able to go find the other opportunities, and I cut her in on it because it allows there to not be the feeling of animosity of, well, I'm over here doing this while you're over here making X amount for yourself or whatever, or do this other business. Mm-hmm. So I just do it and bring her in on it. And now she 100% supports me when I do that, and I 100% support her. And we're each other's biggest fans, right? Like we're championing each other, like, go kill it. I don't need you here. I got this. You go do that.
Yep. Let's just go build wealth.
Let's go build wealth. That's right. Because I think if you looked in my bubble of 5, she would be my wealth determiner. 100%. She's the first one I think of. But I also want her to see me as hers.
Sure. I mean, you're equal partners.
That's right.
Which, by the way, I don't see very often in real estate. So It's amazing that you guys have had this partnership this long, because obviously whatever it is magic.
Yeah. We understand each other very well. Also, the biggest part of it is you've got to get your ego out of the way as fast as you can. I deal with it all the time. It's hard, right? Mm-hmm. I built it, started it, brought her in. Now she's the face of it. I'm still the name of it. But yeah. I joke, but it's just the way it was before. It's hard sometimes to get out of your own way. It's really tough. And it truly will all the time.
So you and Jen both have very distinct lanes.
Yes.
And there's not very many dotted lines to cross the lane.
Nope. I don't need to. Also, I trust and respect her enough that I don't need to.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I know they're going to ask, What CRM do you use? Let's talk a little bit about tech because I think this is important. GSD, Dan, and you and I were talking earlier, it's really about systems. I mean, we're really attempting to give agents the how to do things, not just the what. What? Go sell 540 homes. How do you do it? Right? So what CRM system do you use?
Well, now today we use Brevity.
Okay.
We've dabbled in a couple others, but we're in Brevity right now. We're rolling out Sisu just so that we don't have 10 different spreadsheets to track everything.
Yep.
That's where we're at now to manage this size of business. I don't know. And everybody wants to know the hot button questions like that. And I'll tell you, really, for most people, it doesn't matter what they use, as long as they use something. It's about the consistency, not about the tool, right?
Contract to close, is it all run through Brevity?
Some of it's run through Dotloop.
Okay.
Weird enough.
Okay. Well, Dotloop can do that.
I don't like jumping back and forth, but it's just what we have to do. Yes, our checklists are all in Brevity, but some of the actual management is through Dotloop. So,
okay.
But yeah, go back to what I said before. I think that it's as important for people just to know it's not about necessarily the tool. It's how do you execute the consistency of it. Jen and I, when we started business, and we've grown into this, right? So I don't want to. I wouldn't put a limiting belief on anybody, nor would I just say, okay, go use Brevity, because it's not. That's just a tool that we're using, right? And I love it, and it's great, and we're super happy with it. So kudos and props to that. And we grew into that. So if I had gone back 12 years ago and jumped into Brevity right off the bat, I can't say that I would have different results now. So I don't know that I could tell anybody at $3 million to go dump whatever they're doing and jump into Brevity. It's gonna be the best thing ever and change your life. No, the habits and the activities are going to change your life, and what you're willing to put into it, who you're willing to put in your world. Brevity is a tool. Now, there are tools that will help you get there faster, and I'm very fond of it. I think it's great. And it's really about the activities that you're doing.
Yeah. Brevity is a big monster. I mean, it's a giant platform.
Yeah. Our biggest tracking sources and methods that we used before, we were so inefficient, we had Post-it note tracking systems. You just need something to track what you're doing so that you know what you're doing every day. Otherwise, how do you know if you're winning the day?
Okay, I'm going to end with this. Talk to me about coaching and accountability, because when I asked you that, you said, oh, this is Jen's world.
Well, for the team. Now, we are in coaching. Matter of fact, I employ, I think, 8 coaches for either of my organization, directly or indirectly. So I'm a huge proponent of coaching, but kind of tying back to what you said before, I don't have to hold my people accountable. They report what's going on the surface, but I don't have to get the weeds. Now, so Jen is super in depth. I'll give you an example. She just ran 760 miles, I think. She did it with 2 of her friends over the course of the year. I'm sorry. She didn't just finish this month. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Wow. This wasn't over a week period. And she did it and they ran 2,020 miles this year. And I rolled. I was laughing in January. She's like, great. One more thing for you to track. She tracks everything every day. We have a huddle every morning. And so we track our appointments. We track our listings taken. We track our contracts, and we track our closings. And we know exactly where we're at in relation to the month every day, because we stand up and we talk about it and report it every month. So that is Jen's world. Jen knows every number of where we're at month to date and year to date on anything you want to do. And she tracks it on paper. Of course, it's tracked on higher technology platforms, but in her world, it's texted to her. We're in a group text. She knows what the numbers are. She knows there's a direct correlation of the month. So for instance, today's the 23rd. So it would be like 60, let's just throw a number that 60% of the month is gone. And that gives you your gauge of, are you ahead or behind goal month to date? And what do we need to do to get there? So it's just a way of looking every day at, are we trending accurately with the month? So, right, because I think people can tend to look at the year too macro of a level. And you look at 500 units. Well, how do you do 500 units? Well, you do 500 units by writing 2 per day. Right. And I just fast forwarded through a whole bunch of business planning. But going back to what I said before of how do you know if you're winning the day, right? Because if I know that I need 2 contracts per day, then that means I need to write 2. I'm making some of these numbers up, but because everybody's business is different. So I don't want to be like fact checking, like his numbers are off. It means you have to write 2.2 contracts per day. We can't write 0.2s, right? So I mean, we're working into that, and which means I need to go on X amount of listing appointments, which means I need to have X amount of leads. So we have it down to the micro, of how many leads we have to generate every day, how many appointments we have to set, how many we have to meet in order to write X amount of contracts. So how do you hit 550? By knowing exactly what you have to do and by knowing what attainable you have to do every day. So we can go home at the end of a day, even if we didn't write a contract, right? And I told you 2 per day. I'm just making, it's really close to that business day, by the way. And I can go back and go, well, we didn't write a contract today. And we did all of our lead gen. We had every appointment, we had et cetera. Now, maybe tomorrow that we write 4, right? So we look like a little bit larger, but it's a radar. We go, okay, we didn't write any. We're not panicking. We still did all the activities. We did everything. We showed up. We did our thing. We won the day. We don't have to go home and being. So it's just having those measures and going, I know that I'm pushing everything in the right direction in a tangible, reasonable amount of a activity that I can track to know that at the end of the year or the end of the month or end of the week, I'll be on track if I do these things. And you just have to have confidence in the conversion and in the numbers that you're tracking.
So you're doing lead indicators, not lag indicators.
Well, yeah, you can't change a lag, right?
Right.
I've heard this before. I'm sure you have to. There's a reason the windshield is this big and the rear view mirror is that big.
Right.
We're looking this way.
Yeah. Any advice, any thoughts that you would give to somebody who maybe is thinking about building a team and or joining a team?
Okay, 2 separate questions. Anybody's thinking about joining a team, I'll go that way first. I think I would go first and understand that in joining a team, it is an agreement for value for compensation.
Okay.
I would make sure that value lines up with the compensation that you want. And because everybody's interpretation of what's important to them is different. Some people may want to come on a team for a higher split and less value. Understand that Rainmaker is running a business and they have to have profitability. Otherwise, they'll be out of business if the market shifts. And nobody wants to be on a boat that's sinking, right? So understand there's a business and understand that, like in our business, we pay a lesser split than national average, but we create a ton of value, right? So but that makes sense because if our agents are doing 90 deals a year, 70, 80, 90 deals a year, they're going to be making a lesser split, but we're providing a ton of value. So they're still making more money at the end of the year, right? So just understanding what the value proposition is in exchange for the money that you're going to exchange for the value, right? If you're running a team, is there any advice that you give? I think my number 1 advice is be the person that would attract the person that you want. So, meaning know how to lead. Gosh, I could talk for an hour. How much time do we have? Make sure that you're being the person that would attract the type of people that you want in your world. So if you want the most talented people, okay, go back to what I said before. If you want thoroughbreds in your organization, don't be a donkey.
Yeah.
If you want donkeys, be a donkey. Donkeys really like hanging out with donkeys. They have loads of fun. Thoroughbreds like running with thoroughbreds. Be a thoroughbred. Be the person that when they look to, number 1, you're influential, you're having intelligent conversations, you're educated, you're knowledgeable, you have a work ethic, you have a drive, because people have the opportunity to go, wait, this person is moving fast, they're changing things, and I see opportunity in them. They're also of integrity, and they're always going to do the right thing, right? Be the person that attracts who people want to hitch their wagon to, because they have other options, right? So think about, and I just think about coming in brand new, right? Think about being brand new. People are scared to death. They're like, because if they're remotely talented at all, there's probably 5 teams trying to grab them, right? They're like, I'm going to get you and I'm going to burn you through 24 transactions a year, and then I'm going to kick you to the curb and I'm going to be done with you, but I don't got your 20. Be the kind of person that wants lifers, that you have vision that they can do 90 deals, and then have a proven track history of helping to get more of what they want. They will actually recruit for you. You don't have to recruit for yourself.
How long is the longest agent besides Jen been on your team?
6 years.
6 years.
The first showing agent she had, I'm sorry, not the first one. The first one that was successful is still with us.
Yeah. And how many agents start out as showing agents and then land into agents?
Well, She only has hired 3 showing agents initially. Then we just put on another one. One of the 3, but they've gone just for one went because of a life change. One went because so none of them weren't successful and weren't on that track. Just something changed in their life. So they all had the track history and the path they were going to be there. Just life changed on them, right? One was a family situation. One was a transition out of the market. Um, People very seldom leave our world. When they do, we're all surprised.
Yeah.
It's not a I saw that coming. Very, very,
Or
very
you're a
seldom.
donkey.
Yeah, but a donkey can't change his stripes.
No. Donkey doesn't have stripes, Dan. I hate to tell you.
I made that up, but
That's an animal lesson.
it's an animal. I do think that. I think number one, you have to show up as the person that would attract the people that you want in your world.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for taking an hour of your time today, and I've loved catching up with you. Um, as you're listening to this, I would love for you to post down below what are some of the comments, some of the takeaways that you got out of this interview with Dan Holt. Definitely, if you have any referrals, go to Springfield, Missouri. He is your team, your guy, and Dan, I'd love you to dip in and out of this group. We'll let you know when we post this so that you can comment and answer any questions Dan may have. And I just want to thank you, and we will talk to you soon.
Sorry, I'm a rambler.
No, you did awesome. We'll talk soon. Bye.
Bye.